The novel coronavirus has spread everywhere, and the world has locked itself down behind closed doors and is maintaining strict social distancing. Although these steps are crucial to keep the virus in check, they can have serious toll on our mental health as all our habits are changed at once and we have to deal with certain new scenarios like being in confined space, seeing less of certain people and seeing a lot more of certain others. So join us in this episode with counseling psychologist Jyoti as we discussed all these questions and what are some of the steps to deal with them in these times. Hi, this is Apoorv.
Hey, this is Arish. We have been learning ways to bring harmony in different aspects of our lives, such as mental health, physical health, financial health. Along the way, we noticed more and more people were keen on learning from us.
Each week, we discuss topics like mental health, focus, social skills to help you better navigate through life. So join us in this podcast as we navigate through the many complexities of our modern life. Hello, Jyoti. Could you quickly introduce yourself to our listeners?
I'm a counseling psychologist. I completed my MSc in counseling from Christ, and I've been working with a school. So a major chunk of the people I see are adolescents. And I work with young adults as well. I work with the orthos, so I get to see a lot of young adult population over there.
Okay, and you work with adolescents and young adults. So do you have a particular area of expertise that you particularly deal with those kind of cases or?
Not really. There's no thing that I specialize in, but generally when you're dealing with adolescents, a major chunk of the cases that come to you are usually related to interpersonal relationships. So it might be with their parents, their siblings, significant others, but it's mostly self and interpersonal relationship related.
Since you get a lot of cases who are like children and kids, so what I wanted to know is there a pattern like certain kind of relationships in their lives might lead to those kind of problems or something that you have observed, like say if the father is too strict, then the kid might develop an anxiety of always being on top and those kind of stuff. So is there a pattern that you have observed?
My belief is very rooted in this one particular school of thought. So I do a lot of cognitive analytic therapy. So as a basis of that, we believe that a lot of our patterns, behavioral patterns that we play as adults, come from the patterns that we picked up as children. So where do we pick it up as kids? From our parents, definitely. So, and more importantly, your parents are like your primary relationships that you build in your lives. Those are the first two relationships you're building. So obviously, those are the people you're interacting with when you're a kid. So of course, that has a way how you interact with your mother or your father definitely plays out in how you're interacting with, let's say, your friends or your significant others later. So let's say your father is very authoritative and you've been very scared of him. There's a high chance that you would have a certain kind of behavior around authority figures.
In this episode, we're going to cover on how to maintain our mental health in this coronavirus outbreak. So how do you suggest that we maintain a sort of peace in our lives while we are stuck at home? Because being stuck at home, we don't really get a lot to do. We don't get a lot of people who we interact with. Plus, we are stuck at home and we're consuming all these new through the entire day, which are telling us that situation is getting worse. So how do we deal with that? And in general, we like for a normal person, how he would deal with it. But there are certain people who are also suffering from anxiety. And I suppose that this trouble grows exponentially for them.
So the first part, like you said, yes, it's quite a stressful time for everybody. Everybody's losing their minds. It's understandable. It is a crisis situation. And yeah, the major issue that's coming up with people right now, it's anxiety, especially because the kind of news that we are getting every day, like you said. And once you step out of your home, it is a scary situation out there as well. So yeah, it makes sense for people to be at their wits' end, especially with the new routine setting in, working from home, not meeting anybody, people who like to go out, people who like having their everyday routines, it's kind of stressful for them also. So what helps is creating a new routine for yourself, right? Um, because what's happened is, since you're not doing what you would usually do, what's set in is kind of like a little bit of purposelessness. You have a lot of free time on your hand and you don't know what to do with it. And yeah, so what's really good for these situations is making a new routine. Now, this doesn't have to be like a routine that, this is the quarantine period and I'm going to have this routine during the lockdown. And once the lockdown is over, I'll go to my normal routine. This routine has to be like your new normal. You have to accept this as your new normal and set something like, maybe I'm going to wake up at this time, do something. Maybe if you're working from home, schedule your work around it, make a list of things that you want to accomplish. And it's important, while you're setting the routine, it's very, very important to start slow, okay? The thing is, if you go through Instagram or any other social media, you'd see that a lot of people are doing a lot of things, right? And it kind of puts a pressure on us to be productive. It's important to not get sucked into that. It's okay if you're not being 100% productive as well. You can also just take this time to heal and be by yourself. And, if you just want to watch Netflix, that's also okay. But set a routine for yourself. So even if you're just watching Netflix, make sure that, there's a time that you're waking up, time that you're sleeping, time that you're eating, making sure everything else in your life is just as it should have been. It's just the work part that's not happening.
Okay, and you also mentioned that you shouldn't consider this routine as something temporary. Rather, you should consider this routine to be your new normal. And why do you say that?
I said that specifically because if you kind of think that this is my routine during the lockdown, it's something that you don't accept as your own. You're constantly thinking, when is this going to get over? So once you just take it as your new normal, it's kind of like, okay, it's going to work out. My old routine, I'm going to come back to it when all of this is over. But, you don't keep counting days about this routine.
Okay, so what you're essentially saying is that it's a lot more freeing if you just allow yourself to move into a new routine rather than just putting boundaries in between these periods of time. I have to follow this. Then it is constricting rather than relieving. That's, if I'm not wrong.
That's well put, actually. Yes, I've been trying to say that.
Okay. Now you also mentioned that people are doing a lot many creative things, and people tend to get this anxiety around that. Everybody is doing something creative and I'm not doing anything. You said that it is perfectly fine to watch, stay at home and watch Netflix. But the second point I wanted to bring from that is that how do you not keep on stuck with the social media forever? Since we are spending so much time at our homes, there's no real boundary to how much social media can we consume or how much Netflix or any other video streaming site we can consume. So although there is not a problem in doing that, but if we do excess of that, then there could be a problem with that as well. So
so that's where your routine comes in. So you can keep like a track that you're not watching Netflix all day, you're doing other things as well, other things around the house. Maybe you complete a couple of your chores, get up, maybe, I don't know, other than Netflix, what are the other things that you could do? Slowly start slipping in those aspects of your life. Maybe learn a new language, get a new hobby. A lot of Yale University is offering its courses online for free. And actually a lot of other universities have come up with something like this. So if anybody's interested, that's also an option. But again, what I'm saying is, you don't need to put pressure on yourself to be productive all the time. Like, I'll give you an example. A couple of my clients have taken a break from their work and it's their first break, let's say in 15 years, which really needs to be a time where they can just be by themselves and, take a time to process and heal and just relax. But then again, some of them are facing the anxiety of not being at work, not being productive, thinking that they are not doing anything and therefore not contributing in any way, which is kind of what I was going towards.
Okay. And what are the things that you in particular are doing to deal with these situations?
Actually, like I said before we started this, I had 18-hour work weeks. So I'm literally just taking the time to be by myself and be alone with my thoughts, really. That's not something I'm very fond of. So yeah, I'm just sitting and being alone with my thoughts a couple of hours a day. And I'm watching Netflix.
So now coming back to our thing with kids. So you told me that if somebody is staying at home with adults, they still can deal with it. They understand the gravity of the situation. So they can possibly come out with processes or things, or even if they don't come out with that, they actually can make themselves be at home. But how about kids? Like, kids do not exactly understand the gravity of the situation. Plus, even if they do understand the gravity of the situation, I'm not very sure if they are likely to act in that certain way or not. Like, do they really understand that they need to stay at home, and how to make them understand? And if they are staying at home, how to make the things around the house engaging for them so that they don't feel that boredom?
That's amazing that you've come to that point. So if you're a parent and so you're working from home, plus your kids are at home full time, that's a new thing that you need to get used to. So definitely make sure that children have a routine, because the school shut down very abruptly for the kids, right? So the pre-primary section shut down, and 1 week later, the senior grades also had to shut down. So it was a very abrupt ending for them. Now their summer vacation has technically started, but they haven't really, that transition hasn't really happened for them yet. So it's very important to keep like a steady routine going. Always keep tasks lined up for your children. And honestly, it's very helpful to be very honest and open with kids. So far is what I found. So when I was working with this second grader and the school was about to shut down, so there was quite a bit of confusion. So the principal decided to have like an open and honest conversation about the pandemic with the kids, of course on their level, and obviously the kids understood. So have the conversation with your kids. Say it's not safe to go outside right now. How about we do something else inside? Help your kids come up with their own activities. Let the kids feel in control of certain things. When situations like this have gone out of our control, it helps to exercise control in whatever little things we can. So with kids, it's very important to remind them that they still have some control over things. So let them pick their activities, let them pick movies, things like that,
That is quite interesting. Although I'm reminded of this thing, when we were doing a episode on focus, on how to improve your focus, we came across this book called Play Anything, and I forgot the name of the author. So what the author suggests is that how you can make anything into a game if you focus entire concentration on it. So I possibly think that if you can also make your household chores into a game and play it along with your kids, and in that way not only will you accomplish your chores, but you also keep your kids engaged.
That's actually a wonderful idea. Yeah. So there was this positive parenting workshop where they did come up with strategies to make everything a game. So yeah, that sounds actually wonderful. Now that you talk about it, I feel like I should have attended that workshop.
So now all around us we are getting this question, like these news around coronavirus. So how could we avoid ourselves from getting stuck into that rabbit hole, mental rabbit hole?
Right. So this is kind of like your worst fears slowly coming to life. since this is a crisis situation, it's kind of obvious that our autonomous nervous system, so our sympathetic nervous system has immediately picked up on that. So when you're feeling anxious or you're threatened by a stimulus, in this case, it's the coronavirus, a lot of people, of course, come up with a lot of emotions. So since your sympathetic nervous system gets activated, your flight or fight response is of course comes into play then. So a lot of people might be experiencing, let's say, so for the fight response, you might be experiencing anxiety, depression, fear of the virus. For the flight response, you might want to escape certain situations you're in, want to get out of your house, escape the city you're in, escape the relationships that you are in. Or for the freeze is what I feel a lot of people are experiencing, where you feel like, this is it, I can't do anything. My days are just going. I'm just sitting and doing nothing. And you want to accomplish a lot of tasks, but you find yourself unable to do it. So these are the three kind of responses that usually come into play. So yeah, the media is the basic source of that anxiety, because you're always listening, you're always picking up on a lot of negative, you're picking up like a lot of negative news, and not necessarily all of them are true, right? So because your fight, flight, or freeze response is activated, it's important to, bring that to activate your parasympathetic nervous system so you can kind of calm yourself down. Every time, be mindful of the news that you're consuming. Know what you're consuming and make sure you have like a fact check, because honestly, a lot of news so a couple of kids came up and said that if you have corona, you're going to die. And that's what their parents had told them, which kind of makes me worry about the, idea of coronavirus that's being spread. So it's important to know about the virus, educate yourself, know the news that you're consuming. And if at any time you start to feel anxious, listen to your body, recognize your triggers, and take a social media break. It's okay. Move on, distract yourself, and do something for the next 2 hours so that you don't have to look at your phone for a bit. Once you come back, maybe also with your anxiety and your depression, with your anxiety, what could work is breathing exercises. There's something called the infinity breathing. So not just breathing, since anxiety and all of these emotions that you're feeling are not just your emotional response, it's a bodily thing as well. So when you're feeling anxious, not just your mind feel anxious, you feel that anxiety in your entire body. So be sure to do a lot of body work as well. Google infinity breathing, or let's say try to do a lot more body work however that you can. Probably if you're feeling really anxious, it would really help if you could seek out help from a professional. Always remember that. There's a lot of people volunteering their time. And that's about it.
So that was quite informative. But I also came across this talk by Amy Cuddy. I don't know if you have heard about it. She talks about power posing, and what she means by power posing is basically standing in a posture that conveys power. So like a Superman posture or something. So she talks is that if you're not feeling good, if you probably power pose, what happens is that your moods tend to improve. So she says that not only your body follows your emotions, but your emotions also follow your body. So if you're not feeling good, probably if you can improve your posture, then that could have a good impact on your body. So that could be something that our listeners might want to try as well if they're feeling anxious.
Yeah, power posing helps with, let's say, confidence issues, anxiety. Yeah, when you're feeling low.
There are people who are also working from home, and it is certainly not the same as working from office, but you are expected to contribute the same amount of work. So I guess distractions at your home are a lot more, but also are a lot different from the distractions that you might face in your office. Like you might get a feeling of going to the cafeteria or something like that, but here you don't have that option. But here you have got other distractions, like getting stuck to the social media, or maybe talking to your spouse, or maybe taking care of your kids, and you're not able to focus on work. So how can we manage those kind of distractions while we are working from home?
Now, a big problem is when you're working from home for a couple of companies. So when you work at the office, it's a 9 to 5. But when you're working from home for a couple of companies, that 9 to 5 has flown out the window. It's 24/7, at least in a couple of companies. So that's something that's something that I don't know how to address. But when, let's say, whatever your working time is, whatever amount of work that you want to productively give, make sure you find a quiet space in your house or a space without distractions. Since you're working from home, it's very important to make a space for yourself. Okay, this is the space where you work. Draw very concrete boundaries in your mind. So this is my workspace. Outside of this space, this is where I go. This is where I live my regular life at home. So I know a lot of people might not have the privilege of designating one area of their house for their work, but as much as you can, or at least keep like a time boundary that this is the time I'm going to work, and maybe communicate with your family and tell them this is the time I don't want to be disturbed. Perhaps after this, we can have like a regular time, just the amount of time that you want to be productive.
Okay, yeah, that actually sounds quite right. And yeah, when we were again researching for the focus episode, we found out that if you have a dedicated time of doing any kind of work, you are likely to achieve much more in lesser amount of time, rather than if you're doing the same stuff in a distracted kind of way. So
why do you get work done in your office or school or college? It's because there's a structured routine. So set that in your house.
now we see that people, especially couples, are facing another kind of problem altogether. So for, say, couples who are not staying together, or but staying in the same city but not at the same place, they would not be able to meet each other for long periods of time. But then there are couples who are married and they're staying in the same house. Now they used to see each other for, say, 8 hours, but now they're seeing each other for the entire 24 hours. So that could lead to a lot of tension as well. So how do you think that both of these situations could be handled?
Speaking for the first kind, that so if you're staying away from, let's say you're staying away from your significant other and you cannot meet them, make sure that you can find enough quality time to spend. And remember I was talking about the sympathetic nervous system and the response is activated because of it. There might be a lot of tension in relationships because of that right now. You might have the desire to fight with this person because you cannot fight with somebody else, or flee the relationship because that's kind of what your mind is telling you to do right now. So it's important to address your feelings separately as well as a part of the relationship. Spend enough quality time with your significant other, whether it's on voice call or video call. Find something to do with each other. Yeah, and make small plans with them maybe. Usually, do not put a time frame on it. Let's say once the quarantine is over, find like a list of activities that you could do together. Although agree on it that you might not be able to achieve all of it. That keeps like the hope alive. It gives you a reason to continue through. So yeah, that's kind of what might work for people who are staying away from their significant others. But coming to the whole issue of living with somebody in close quarters 24/7, that can be extremely exhausting and stressful. So make sure you get time by yourself. That's very, very, very important. Get time by yourself. Be alone. Just because you're seeing each other 24/7, there will be more conflicts. Make sure you address these conflicts as they come up. Try to spend quality time, but try to do your own thing as much as possible as well. Be connected with other people. Make sure you like calling your friends, your family members, so that this is not the only person you are in contact with. If you are stuck in, a lot of people are stuck in domestic situations with an abusive partner. So in those cases, it's very, very important that those people reach out, they speak to others, make sure that they are being safe, because I know there's a lot of danger outside, but these people are not safe in the walls of their own houses as well. So it's very important to stay connected with friends and family. If you find difficulty reaching out to friends or family, make sure you just reach out to, honestly, there's a lot of NGOs going around, so make sure that you research and reach out to some of these.
So another thing is that after this entire outbreak ends, how do you think the society is going to change? Because I have heard a news from one of my friends who work for this gym chain, which is a gym chain that is across the nation, and they are speculating that even after this outbreak ends, people are still going to maintain that social distancing, because we are not expecting the vaccine to come out in a year or something. So people are still going to maintain their social distancing, and then therefore they are planning to switch their entire model to online.
So yeah, for counseling, everything's moved online. I'm seeing all my clients online at the moment, and yeah, so is everybody else. With the whole idea that we cannot expect normalcy to just happen, because this is such an apocalyptic situation that you've thrown, that's been thrown at people. So to get used to the whole idea, once the lockdown is over, you will see more people on the street, but for the normalcy to come, it's going to take a while. People are going to be scared, because honestly, people have been scared with death right now. So it just makes sense for everybody to maintain their distance, but to survive. And yeah, it absolutely makes sense that people are not going to go out as much. People are not going to go to the gyms. Contact is going to be much less with unknown people. And it's going to be like that for quite a bit. This is not just going to be the lockdown period. This is going to continue. And that's something that we all need to come to terms with.
So there's a important thing that I got from your point, is that there's a lot of uncertainty that is going to come in the near future. How
Yeah.
do we deal with all this uncertainty?
So the biggest uncertainty right now is if 14th April is going to be the last day of lockdown, which has got people worried and anxious. One thing that everybody kind of needs to do right now is concentrate on facts, look at what is available, look at the logic, and don't jump to conclusions. Because the more you try to pick things apart, the more anxious we're going to get. So the idea of the fear of the unknown, right? So if it's a known danger, people are going to be less afraid. But now that there's all this uncertainty, the anxiety is going to go through the roof. And right now is what is important. Right now, what you're doing, what you're feeling, how you are, what your thoughts are, concentrate on that. Bring yourself to the present. Because we cannot control the rest of the situation. Like I said, find things that you can control. Do activities that help you establish your control. Simple things like picking out what to wear in the morning. Give yourself the idea of control. Choose your outfits. Behave like how you would go on a normal day to work, which is what I was saying. I'm not saying pick out a suit and wear it, but when you're picking out your clothes in the morning, even if they are your PJs, mix and match your clothes, wear PJs, even if you're wearing PJs. Decorate your house a little bit. Anything that helps you establish control over your life. And anytime you're moving away from the present, bring your mind back. Try breathing techniques. Make yourself remember that this is where you are right now. So one thing that helps with people who have anxiety is focusing on your breath and name 5 things you can see in the room, then name 5 things that you can hear, 5 sounds you can hear. Really concentrate, pick out the 5 sounds. Sound of the traffic, is the fan moving? Can I hear my own breath? 5 things that, activate all your 5 senses and end it with 5 emotions that are coming up for you right now. It helps bring your attention to the here and now, activates your sympathetic nervous system so your body calms down. And then you can address whatever it is that brought anxiety in the first place, that triggered this anxiety.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that one tonight itself. And let's see if that actually helps me sleep better, maybe. Because I get the maximum amount of anxiety when I'm just about to go to sleep. And that is one of the troubles that I'm facing as well. So, yeah, so that is there. What are some things that you have personally done in your life to cope up with this period of lockdown?
Personally, yeah, I got up and I set this routine for myself, because before the routine, even I found myself meandering and doing nothing. So yeah, I set up a routine. I'll wake up at, let's say, 9, and I'm going to do my chores and I'm going to finish everything. I've started reading more, and I've set up like small goals for myself that I want to achieve. But at the same time, like, I've kept a post-it below the goals saying that it's okay if you don't achieve them as well. So yeah, trying to give no pressure to myself at all.
Thank you, Jyoti. That was quite an enlightening talk. I'm sure that our listeners would be able to use those guiding principles to take care of their mental health in these tough times. Hello, guys. Thank you all for listening. If you did like that episode, do share it with people who you think might be facing similar issues in their life. If you have any comments or feedbacks regarding our episode, you could drop them to us on any of our social media pages, links to which will be posted in the description of this episode. You could also email us at info@thecharmingbuddha.com.